Well, hello there. I am so happy that you could join me today for Story Hour with me, Helen Karabed. I am super excited to share with you today's story. It's kind of an interesting one considering that we are in the month of June. This story is called Calico the Wonder Horse. It's written by one of my all-time favorite authors. She is a literary genius, Virginia Lee Burton. And in fact, Virginia Lee Burton not only wrote her own stories, but she illustrated them as well. And you're going to see how cool her illustrations are in this book. She's written a lot of other stories that you would love to read as well. One of her other super famous stories is called Mike Mulligan and His Steam Shovel. Another one is The Little House. That one is super special to me, and hopefully I'll get to share that with you in the upcoming weeks. But Calico the Wonder Horse is a Christmas story. But who says you can't read a Christmas story in June, right? We've all heard of Christmas in July. Well, this is Christmas in June. So let's go ahead and dive right in to the story of Calico. Calico the Wonder Horse by Virginia Lee Burton. Now, I just want to warn you that this is a long story. Virginia Lee Burton was somewhat of a word wizard, and her picture books are usually word heavy, meaning there's a lot of writing. But if you need to take a break and listen to this in part 1 and part 2, that is totally fine. But just sit back, relax, maybe grab some popcorn or your favorite drink, and let's dive right in. Way out west in Cactus County, there was a horse named Calico. She wasn't very pretty, but she was very smart. She was the smartest, fastest horse in all of Cactus County. She could run like greased lightning, and she could turn on a quarter and give you back 15 cents in change. She had a long and sensitive nose. She could smell like a real bloodhound. Her nose was so keen she could track a bee through a blizzard. She belonged to a cowboy whose name was Hank. Hank had saved her from the wolves when she was just a baby filly. And Calico never forgot. She would go to the end of the trail for Hank. They had a language all their own and understood each other perfectly. Sounds like Calico and Hank are BFFs. Everybody was happy and contented in Cactus County. There were no locks, there were no jails, and there were no fences. Twice a year they had a roundup, one in the spring and one in the fall. In the spring, the cowboys rounded up all the cattle, separated them, and branded the new little calves. Hank was top cow puncher and Calico was top cow pony. Across the Cactus River were the Badlands, good only for hideouts for bad men. Once a month, the stagecoach, driven by Die-Hard Dan, came over the narrow mountain pass, down the hairpin turns, and forded the river to bring visitors and news from the outside world to the people of Cactus County. One day, Die-Hard Dan brought some bad news. What could that bad news be? He had seen Stewie Stinker and his gang of bad men, Butch Bones, Snake Eye Pison, Buzzard Bates, and Little Skunk Skeeter in the Badlands. Stewie Stinker was said to be so mean he would hold up Santa Claus on Christmas Eve if he had a chance. He rode a horse whose name was Mud. They looked down on Cactus County where there were no fences, no locks, and no jail. Not even a deputy sheriff. They saw the nice fat cattle grazing peacefully on the open range. "Aha," said Stewie Stinker as he curled his long black mustache. "Aha," said he, "nice pickings." What is Stewie Stinker thinking up? Butch Bones was Stewie Stinker's right-hand man. Butch Bones boasted that he was so tough he would bite a live grizzly bear's nose. Snake-Eye Pison was Stewie Stinker's left-hand man. He was so crooked, they said, that if he swallowed nails, he'd spit out corkscrews. Buzzard Bates was so bad, even a buzzard wouldn't use him for bait. Little Skunk Skeeter just tagged along because nobody else liked him. Stewie Stinker found a good hideout in a cave halfway up a steep mountain. Only a bloodhound could find them there, and it would take an army to get them out. The first dark night, they crept quietly down from the Badlands. They rustled a bunch of nice fat cattle from the open range. To cover their trail, they drove the cattle into the river and waded upstream before going back to the Badlands. Near their hideout was a box canyon where they hid the stolen cattle. All summer they rustled cattle from Cactus County. "This is as easy as eating striped candy," said Stewie Stinker, curling both his long black mustaches. Once again it was roundup time in Cactus County, time for the fall roundup, when they selected the beef cattle for market. The cowboys rode round and round looking for the cattle. There were few to be found. "It must be Stewie Stinker and his gang of bad men who have rustled our cattle," said Hank. "Die Hard Dan told us he was around." The others agreed and said that he must be caught. They posted a reward and description of Stewie Stinker. One day when Hank and Calico were reading it, Calico had an idea. She told Hank to wait for her and raced off to the river. She waded up and down the river, sniffing right and left till she picked up Stewie Stinker's old cold trail. To disguise herself to look like Stewie Stinker's horse, she rolled over and over in the mud on the riverbank. Only a bloodhound or Calico could have followed Stewie Stinker's trail through the Badlands. Stewie Stinker didn't leave enough tracks to trip an ant. When Calico reached the hideout, she chased Stewie Stinker's horse Mud away, then quietly waited outside till Stewie Stinker came out. He mistook her for Mud, saddled her, and got on. What is Calico up to now? Then the fireworks started. Hi-ya, whoopee! High went Calico, and hard she hit. Calico bounded down the mountainside, leaping from rock to rock like a jackrabbit. Stewie Stinker pulled leather so hard he got calluses on both hands. 2 whoops and a holler, and they were over the river. Lightning was slow in comparison to the way they covered the country. Back to Hank, who was waiting. Calico stopped short and unloaded Stewie Stinker. Who shot through the air like a bullet. He landed in a large patch of cacti. His yells and screams could be heard from one end of Cactus County to the other. Calico picked Stewie Stinker out of the cactus patch. It would take a week to pluck him so he wouldn't look like a porcupine. The people of Cactus County gave Hank and Calico the reward. Hank did not want to take it, but Calico nodded her head and told him she had another good idea. All right, boys and girls, that concludes part 1 of Calico the Wonder Horse. Okay, we are going to go ahead and read part 2 together next time. So I hope you will join me then. We're going to find out what Calico and her BFF, best friend Hank, do with the reward money. We're also going to find out what in the world happens to Stewie Stinker and his gang of bad men from the Badlands. All right, so I look forward to seeing you next time. We'll finish Calico the Wonder Horse, Christmas in June/July. And we will hopefully look at some more stories by Virginia Lee Burton coming up soon. Or you can go ahead and start checking them out on your own if you're interested. If you would like to go ahead and leave me a comment below about stories that you love, stories that you would like me to read aloud, stories that maybe people haven't heard of but you discovered in the library or even an online digital story, go ahead and type that below as a comment for me. I would love to read your comments and find some more exciting stories to bring to you for a story hour. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for part 1. We will be back soon. Hasta luego!